Welcome to the weekend review where I give you all my thoughts on all the games from over the weekend. There was goals, there was red cards, there was lots of drama, so let's get into it. Starting off with the first game of the weekend, which was on Friday, West Ham 1, Chelsea 5. Now this game, well, it was a slaughtering, let's be honest. West Ham did though start off with the opening goal, Lucas Paqueta with an absolute ridiculous finish. It was a beautiful goal, although the Chelsea keeper maybe should do better, and that is really Chelsea's main weakness, is their keeper. They haven't sorted it out. I thought they would have bought a keeper in the summer, but they haven't sorted it out. But after that goal, it was all Chelsea, and Chelsea absolutely tore West Ham to bits. João Pedro was phenomenal. He got a goal and 2 assists. They were just opening them left, right and centre, and Chelsea were really getting at West Ham from corners. I think they got 2 goals from corners, and West Ham just couldn't deal with it. If you're a Chelsea fan, you'll absolutely be loving this, other than the fact that Cole Palmer didn't even play because he got injured in the warm-up. But as a West Ham fan, it's worrying times because there's absolutely zero service to the lads up top like Jarrett Bowen, who can change a game for you, and defensively, absolutely shocking. Very worrying signs, and I would now be tipping West Ham to get relegated. But Chelsea looked more like the Club World Cup side we saw, looking really good, really sharp on the attack, and they are definitely going to have a good season. The next game of the weekend was Man City versus Tottenham, and that ended Man City 0, Tottenham 2. Now, I predicted this game would be a draw, and I maybe shouldn't have been surprised that Tottenham won, but I just had it in my head, especially the way Man City played last weekend, that they were going to come here and romp Tottenham. They were going to beat Tottenham at home, and it was just going to be a casual day at the Etihad. Man City fans going to see lots of goals, and Tottenham were just not going to be able to play them. However, this isn't the Tottenham of last season. This is Thomas Frank's Tottenham, and these boys can defend. Mickey van de Ven at the back with Romero is a partnership that if Tottenham can keep them both fit throughout the season, this team is going to be scary because defensively they were so solid. They gave City absolutely nothing, and then offensively they were brilliant. On the counter-attack, pressing was fantastic from Tottenham, and they got 2 very well-deserved goals. Yeah, so Tottenham were brilliant, and they looked like a real top side this season. I had them challenging for Champions League places at the start of the season. I may even say title race if they carry it on. Obviously, once Champions League gets going, they're going to have injuries, etc., that may hinder them a bit. But this side is so different from Ange's, so much better defensively, and attacking-wise, they're so good going forward. Yeah, it's a scary prospect playing Tottenham at the minute. As for Man City, yeah, last week they looked brilliant, like we thought they're back. But against a better side, we are seeing that they're not quite the Man City we saw of a few years ago. It will be interesting once Rodri is fully back and fully fit, whether that will have a difference or not. Next up, we have Bournemouth 1, Wolves 0. Now, I may look a bit different from the previous, and that's because when I've come to edit in this video, for some reason, this match file didn't save. So anyway, let's talk about the game. And the game was a really close one, actually. It was 1-0. Bournemouth got the early goal. It was a great strike from Tavernier. Maybe the keeper was a bit unlucky, especially as it took a deflection, but there's nothing Wolves could really do about it. But after that, Wolves really got into the game, and there was chances for both teams, but that red card for Wolves killed it, I think, for me. I think that just took an end to any threat that Bournemouth weren't going to win the game. Bournemouth had some chances as well. Semenyo, how he somehow didn't score from about 2 yards out, I don't know. But yeah, it was an enjoyable game, even though there wasn't very many goals. Then we come to Brentford 1, Aston Villa 0. Now this was an interesting game, and it was definitely Brentford's new players who really stood out. Kelleher in goal made some absolute fantastic saves, and I'm so glad to see him get his first clean sheet of the season. In fact, why couldn't he have stayed at Liverpool? Because we could do with a clean sheet right now. And then the new striker, Wataru, getting on the score sheet. They paid all that money for him, and he took his goal really well. As for Aston Villa, they just seem to be lacking that creativity going forward. And they're just not really gelling. It's not the side we saw of last season. It's a side who's definitely missing something. They're just missing that clicking feeling this season. And yeah, Brentford definitely deserved to win. In fact, they should have had a second goal. That goal definitely shouldn't have been disallowed. But yeah, great win for Brentford, but Aston Villa, something's not clicking and they need to figure it out because they couldn't score today against Brentford and they couldn't score again last week against Newcastle. So definitely work for Villa to do, especially if they want to be in the European places at the end of the year. Burnley 2, Sunderland 0. Now, this was a game that was the battle of the newbies. And this is a game that both sides really have to win because these are the sorts of points, if they are going to stay up, they need to be getting. They need to be cashing in on the other newbies because that's where you're most likely going to be getting points. Now, Sunderland started off well, however, it all went horribly wrong when their centre-back Ballard went off injured. And he was superb last weekend and was one of the main reasons they tore through West Ham. He's so good defensively and attacking-wise from set pieces. He can bounce the head in, he can shoot, and you saw that in the opening minutes. But as soon as he went off injured, the game totally changed. And that's when Burnley came into the game. And Burnley, to be fair to them, they took 2 goals very well and definitely deserved the win in the end. But it's going to be a tough season for both these teams. Then we come to an absolute destruction, and that was Arsenal 5, Leeds 0. Now, Leeds had absolutely zero chance in this game. Before the game, I said they had zero chance. In the game, it was miles apart. Arsenal showing they are title contenders, a Champions League side, versus Leeds, who looked really like a championship side against them. And Arsenal absolutely destroyed them. They were always going to get goals from set pieces because Arsenal is so good and they made full use of that against Leeds. But the main talking point has to be Victor Gyökeres finally getting onto the score sheet. He scored. His first goal was absolutely brilliant. Like, what a way to introduce yourself. If anyone had any doubts that he's going to do well this season, that first goal probably silenced them. It was brilliant. Taking the ball down, running into the box, past 2 players, and then beautifully slotting it home. Fantastic for him. And then he got a chance to put a second one away from a penalty, which he did. So 2 goals on his home debut has got to be massive, especially for the Arsenal fans. They'll be loving that. But the penalty was made by 15-year-old Max Dowman winning the penalty, which is just crazy that a 15-year-old is playing in the Premier League. At 15, I could barely even do that on the PlayStation. Never mind actually playing in the Premier League. Well, crazy. What he is achieving at 15 is absolutely mind-blowing. On to Sunday's games, we had Crystal Palace versus Nottingham Forest, which ended 1-1. Now, this was a game that really was of 2 halves. In the opening half, Crystal Palace definitely the better team, and they deservedly took the lead and went 1-0 up at half-time. Second half, Forest tweaked it. They changed over the wingers. The tweaks really worked and they looked so threatening. They got their goal straight away, and then towards the end of the game, they probably should have nicked it. They had chances after chance, and so it was a really good competitive game, and both these sides, I think, are going to do very well this season, just like they did last season. Everton 2, Brighton 0 definitely wasn't the full story. It was the first game in Everton's new stadium, and that luck was definitely on their side, as Brighton really should have scored a few goals and won the game. They were absolutely excellent going forward, Brighton, but Pickford was making sure that Everton were getting the win and a clean sheet in their new home. He was fantastic, including saving a penalty, but so many close stops. He was absolutely, man of the match for me, Pickford. But Everton did score the 2 goals, and both of them were assisted by Jack Grealish, who looked more like the Jack Grealish of old. They were perfect passes for the assist, and he was really creative on the day. And I think we're seeing more of that Jack Grealish, the £100 million look in Jack Grealish, rather than this flop we've kind of been seeing at City. So hopefully he'll get back to more freedom and play a big role for Everton this season. Fulham 1, Manchester United 1, which was, it was an interesting game. The big talking point obviously has to be the penalty. It's one of these penalties where the wraparound rule that we've seen given in this game as a penalty, but it hasn't been given in pretty much the entire of the other games this weekend. So that rule definitely needs some consistency, but it's also the way Bruno Fernandes then complained about the penalty and all this. And then after complaining, he then absolutely skies it. That's one of the worst penalties I've ever seen. Shocking penalty, but the rest of the game was pretty even, and Man United got a goal, Fulham got a goal, and a draw both teams would probably be happy with. And then we come to the final game of the weekend that was on Monday, and this was absolutely box office. Newcastle United 2, Liverpool 3. What a game this was. It was ridiculously good. The first half, Newcastle absolutely dominated, and then Anthony Gordon gets himself sent off, has a rash challenge on Van Dijk and gets himself sent off. And at that point, the game really does change and it goes into Liverpool's hand. Now, just before this, I believe, or was it just after, Ryan Gravenberch, against all of play, scored a fantastic goal for Liverpool that put them 1-0 up. One chance, Liverpool score. But at half-time, it was 1-0 to Liverpool. Liverpool really had been outclassed, but then Newcastle down to 10 men, you thought, that was it, game over. Especially when, in the second half, Hugo Ekitike buries the only chance of the game he really had, and it was a fantastic finish, and Liverpool go 2-0 up. And you're thinking, Liverpool have the extra man, they're 2-0 up, surely this game is wrapped. However, Newcastle, they were playing with some real fighting spirit. The crowd was getting behind them. And of course, they score through their captain, Bruno Guimaraes, who I've got to say, man of the match for me in that game. He was unbelievable how good he was. Tackles going in, the passing, the pressing, and then this goal, fantastic. And he got the belief back in Newcastle. And then, from a free kick, they get an equaliser through Willisula, which, I mean, talk about Newcastle struggling without Isak, and every talk being about a striker, and then their only real main striker, Willisula, comes on and scores what should be the equalising goal, and an amazing comeback for 10-man Newcastle. However, that wasn't the end of the story, as Arne Slot sends on the 16-year-old Rio Engamoa. Now, most fans and most people were thinking, oh, he's maybe just giving the kid some minutes and hoping that they survive and get a draw. Not that he would then go on to score the winning goal. It's a brilliant move. Szoboszlai with an unbelievable dummy, and then it comes to Rio Engamoa in the box, 16 years of age, his Premier League debut, and he finishes it like a seasoned striker. It was ridiculous, and what a way to end the game. And yeah, what a way to end the weekend. It's been unbelievable. What a weekend of football. Hopefully it carries on like this for the rest of the season. But yeah, 3 teams now left who have the maximum points in Liverpool, Arsenal and Tottenham. But all the other teams still to play for. And it's looking like it's going to be a really exciting season. But what did you think of this match week? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments.